Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Marketer of the Day podcast. We are here with James Soto, industrial marketing pioneer, and James is the founder and CEO of Industrial, which is one of North America's top B2B marketing agencies. He brings 17 plus years of experience and perspective from working with iconic industrial brands, media, and trade organizations to help them address the challenges they face in this new era of disruptive business models, generational change, digital marketing transformation, and Industry 4.0. So James, glad to be talking to you.
Hey, thanks for having me, Robert.
So just to make sure that we're talking about the same thing, like we mentioned in your bio, your intro about industrial marketing, and so what the heck does that mean? Just so that we all are talking about the same thing.
Yeah, so industrial marketing, obviously there's, business to consumer and CPG and business to business, but industrial marketing really is different in really matter of interdependency and scale. So essentially, if you think about the stakes of building, a very important, product, let's say iPhone, if you specify the wrong lens or circuit to run that thing, you have, you know, hundreds of millions of problems. And so when we really look at any kind of amazing technology product, that's really where manufacturing and the, industrial supply chain comes in. And essentially, we are helping industrials be better marketers and sellers of their industrial products and services. And so when you look at the hundreds and hundreds of parts that go into an iPhone, that's a whole marketplace of suppliers and technologies and companies that need to really be involved in what is critical, industrial design and innovation. So we're part of that process that really brings together those industrial, buyers, brands, technologies to really create some of the most amazing things that we use every day. And so what makes it different is really ultimately, one, interdependence on each other. Two, typically we're dealing with not just like a buyer or buyer journey, we're really dealing with the decision-making unit. And so they're looking at finance, they're looking at business case, they're looking at technology and innovation, they're looking at the ability to deliver, right? You have to keep those production lines going. You don't want all of a sudden not be able to deliver your iPhones. So everything that goes into that process from design to ultimately getting it to the end user, that's really what the industrial sector does. And as industrial marketers, that's what we're involved with.
So all those things that we take for granted with the thousands of parts in an iPhone, if that one little lens or that one little circuit board or that one little piece wasn't working, the whole thing would be bad. So it's important that there's that quality control and that it's all working. And so with these industrial companies, like what's their starting point? Where are they at? Because as someone who knows nothing about this, I imagine that maybe they don't market like they should, or maybe they don't have as much of a web presence or as like a forward facing as maybe you would imagine like a company does that has things to market, or maybe they're dependent on one client for a lot of their sales. I mean, am I on the right track or off the right track? Like, where are these
Yeah,
industrial companies at?
they're all over the place. So, yeah, I think when you look across the segment, so if you look at like just the manufacturing segment, there's 258,000 manufacturers of all shapes and sizes in North America. And, of them, it's still, almost, primarily small businesses, and medium-sized businesses make that up. All but about 3,800 of them have more than 500 employees. So when you think about Apple and you think about, Nissan and you think about, these Tesla and SpaceX, those are the companies that have those employee counts. But it's amazing to think how few of them there are out there. And so for us, when we look at the sector and where folks are, we really find that, in the industrial sector, we're still selling to humans. So we may be selling, getting our parts specified by an industrial design engineer. We may be really making the business case for transformation of an organization that really wants to go digital. And that could be marketing transformation too, right? Marketing and sales and digital marketing operations. We may be looking at someone who really needs to, produce things better and their maintenance, repair, and operations. So when we really look at how the industry formed, it was a heck of a lot more directory focused. connecting buyers with suppliers. But as humans, we all use the same channels. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. We are still using YouTube, the primary channels in podcasting that everybody else uses. But for the most part, in the manufacturing sector, marketing is really mismanaged, or misunderstood. And where that starts is really at a leadership level, because the way they built their business was through distribution, or manufacturers reps, or in-house sales organizations, or because people would build things, they would produce their catalog of widgets or screws or gears or anything that goes into a product, or the production of a product. And so companies really, had to really transition and go, through those phases of electrification, of automation. And now, whereas we're looking at, the convergence of these technologies and the promise of AI and automation, and companies are having to make their way of doing business obsolete, and marketing plays a critical role. And so what we're finding in our sector is that manufacturers, yes, it's mismanaged, misunderstood. As leaders start to kind of get the light bulb coming on, they have to realize, wow, we have to market, because, when it comes to our product, if our brand isn't the first one that comes to mind, we have a brand problem. When people are looking for something, whether it's an end product for an industrial application or something they're going to build, if you're not discoverable, right, in search, that's important. And when people are really looking at entering that sales cycle and how they really develop, which could be a long lead time, they produce a car every 3 years, and the redesign cycle, the all new whatever, right, model years, those are the times where companies are really now at various phases of transformation, and really reckoning with the role marketing plays in their business. And that's a big part of what we do. We really focus on helping them be a better marketer and seller of their industrial products and services. And they're doing some of the amazing stuff we do as marketers now. I actually, Robert, I envy what you do. Like, you're a person that understands and has that ability to have that agility to find ways to all things digital, to make, everything from direct to passive income sources. And what's really exciting now is every one of these channels is opening up in manufacturing. Everything that you do, in some way, is being considered or being done, whether it's early stage or, being heavily adopted in an organization. So it's a fun time, and manufacturing is pretty amazing, because we're not just selling an iPhone, like, in the coolest campaign. We're figuring out how to sell the hundreds of things that go into it, and that's the magic, for us. And it's, people say it's not sexy. Man, it's all business. And that's what's really kind of cool about it.
And so what I'm getting from your answer here, like you said, that some of these businesses that are all over the place, and they could really use some transformation, and if they don't, then they're at risk of just being replaced by the next manufacturer, right? If someone's a little bit cheaper, or if someone does something similar, that, like, what has brought them here might not continue to bring them forward. And as you were kind of explaining some of those things that you were explaining, what came to mind for me was that sometimes it helps to look at other industries or look at other businesses that maybe have no relation to us and say, oh yeah, I should begin to market on LinkedIn, I should populate the YouTube channel, I should do some of these podcast interviews, just things that maybe your own competitors or that people in your own bubble or your own industry don't do, but then you can, like, look at what's working with someone else and model that. And notice that sort of along those lines of like marketing these manufacturing businesses, you have this thing called Manufacturing Day, which you say is the largest industrial sector promotion in U.S. history. So what the heck is Manufacturing Day, and why should all these industrial companies be excited about it?
Yeah. Yeah, about 12% of our economy comes from manufacturing. And if you really think back, 100 and plus years ago, our economy, coming into the industrial revolution was 97% agricultural. And what happened was the industrial revolution happened, changed a lot about what we do, and As we've moved over to these days, the folks that adopted the principles of the Industrial Revolution, they industrialized the farm, and now the farm became 3% of the economy. Not everybody was wanting to be a farmer anymore. The Homestead Act failed, and the urbanization movement due to the Industrial Revolution came in. So they came back, into the urban centers because it wasn't dependent on weather, right? You can work all year round. It created the middle class. And so that was a big moment in time. And so now all of a sudden, when you look at the industrial age now going from being the biggest part of the North American economy, now it's essentially 11-12%. You can see what are those forces that impacted that happening, and that was computer technology, automation, and so many other forces. So if you adopt those things and bring them into the new way, that's how you move forward, whether you're a farmer industrializing the farm or whether you're an industrial, really ultimately making your way of doing business obsolete before generational technology, market forces, or the competition does. So what's our problem? The Industrial Revolution brought some baggage with it, and it brought the perception that manufacturing was dirty. It was kind of boring. It was repetitive work. And yes, that's part of it. But that's changed incredibly. It's kind of, you can go sit in the cubicle at a cool.com company, or you can make Teslas or rockets that go to Mars. There's some cool stuff. So Manufacturing Day was a combination of organizations: the National Association of Manufacturing, the Fabricators and Manufacturers Association, the think tank, and the government, coming out of Department of Commerce, NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. And they're addressing this kind of generational kind of crossroads we're at. And so Manufacturing Day was formed because there was already some grass movements things happening in about 2012, where they were starting to do like this state or this city or this area was doing like a manufacturing week or a manufacturing month or a manufacturing day. And they realized, what if we can bring the industry together and really center it around a definitive, actual day? And so these organizations got together, they did a Manufacturing Day event, and it was all focused on our youth, because parents, counselors were actually saying, hey, we didn't raise you to go to a technical college. We raised you to go to or technical school. We raised you to go to college. And what people don't realize is manufacturing folks make, on average, they're approaching $70,000 a year. It's one of the most stable jobs out there. And, versus retail, paying nothing. It's not a bridge to the middle class. Manufacturing was paying over $23 to $26 an hour. So when you really think about it, we had a lot to do to change perceptions of manufacturing and manufacturing, careers. And essentially what happened was I saw them come together, and I was looking at the Manufacturing Day this year, in 2012, was like, oh, that's really cool. Wow, those organizations, they're the big ones. They got together. And I said, wow, and it was just kind of a quick landing page they put up, and I'm like, whoa, these folks are getting together. I literally called the FMA that was leading it at the time, and I said, you know what, this could be a movement. This is something that we would love to see if we could support, because if you're looking to reach the next generation, you got to meet them where they're at. And so what we did is, it didn't have a brand, didn't have a logo, didn't have, communications foundation, didn't have positioning, didn't have playbooks for people to follow, because the goal was to get manufacturers to open their doors so that organizers like schools and colleges and technical programs and communities could, and legislatures could actually promote and get people to organize events touring these manufacturers that were doing open houses. So that's how it happened, and we built the brand. I went to DC with all these folks at one of Department of Commerce's facilities, and they're all kind of saying, how do we do this? We want to own this thing. And we're like, we need to create a movement. And so what was it? The How It's Made, Discovery Network came on board, 80 million viewers. We had, we went to, I believe it was 800 events the first year, and now it's up to about 3,000, tens of millions of people watching it, trending on Twitter, so much content created. And now it's considered a holiday. And we made the biggest pro bono donation, and still to this day in the history of the company. And we've been doing it for years, because this is kind of what we're all about. It's part of our our purpose is to better those who design, make, and move the world. And we really believe that our body of work, you know, changing perceptions and moving the needle on manufacturing is what it's all about. And fast forward, our study showed, Deloitte came in, did studies, and students coming in left differently. They had different perceptions. And I think if you look at some of those coolest companies that are out there, they're actually, they're technology companies, and manufacturers have always been technology companies. And so we just need to make people, help them understand that this whole podcast or Zoom, it's all because of the Industrial Revolution. It's all because of manufacturing. Take all these manufactured products away, and the technology goes away. And so we want to make sure people know that. And so it's the first Friday of every October is Manufacturing Day, mfgday.com. And you should absolutely attend the event, whether it's looking at robotics and whether it's looking at automation or companies that are leveraging software and AI. It's all part of it. It's really kind of cool. And it's totally fun work. And it's great to see kids' minds being blown.
And I mean, you giving that answer makes me think about how important it is to, number one, like, raise that awareness of whatever it is that we're doing, and to do our best to make anything fun, right? To make the things that we'd normally think of as kind of boring, typical, everyday, and find a way to differentiate it, find a way to explain to people how it's changing the world, how it's keeping the world running, how it's different. Like you said, there's that aspect of it's a better path to middle class than some of these things, how it's changed in history. Anything that we do, we can make it exciting if we find the right hook or the right angle to get people interested, to show how it is being used. And you're totally right that, right now we're recording this podcast on a Zoom meeting, but it's not like Zoom has they don't build servers, they don't build computers, they run it off Amazon, right? Amazon has their whole server farms, their AWS, and a lot of these companies do, like Netflix or like Airbnb or Uber. They don't own anything, they just plug into the infrastructure that's already in place. And like you said, the world is changing with, there's factories out there where they don't even have indoor lighting because it's all robot arms and conveyor belts. There are self-driving trucks. The world is going to change whether we like it or not, and it would make a lot of sense for a lot of these industrial companies out there to maybe make the change before they have to, before they get put out of business. So along those lines, in these last few minutes as we're winding down, with all these companies that you work with, like from Manufacturing Day and clients you have, people like that, do you see maybe one or two things that a lot of these industrial companies are missing out on that they should be implementing right away?
I think what the industrial companies really need to focus on, I think especially now, is being of service. And I think that you would think that that's just that's a no-duh thing to say, but I think we're in a moment in history where we have to really, really look through the eyes of any individual we're trying to, deliver value to. And if we don't have that empathy, if we really don't really ask those questions, what are they really dealing with? What are they up against? I think we're going to really struggle as marketers. And so I think the second thing the industrial sector needs to do is really endeavor to continue to do inspiring work. It's not just trying to deliver value, but the amazing thing about the industrials and manufacturers in particular is they actually design and make the stuff. This isn't some middle marketing person that knows nothing about it. Like, they can be and should be the best content marketers. So I think they really need to do inspiring work because they bring all of the knowledge, the science, the thinking, and the reason for being of things. And I think ultimately, if they do those things, when technology evolves so much, it appears as if it's magic, right? Because how did you do that? Go back, take half our technologies and go back 100 years. And I think we are entering now the age of touchlessness. We are going to have to really be somewhat connected, but separated from our technologies. and the world's going to be forcing upon us like 9/11 did, not just a lot of security, but a lot of distance and safety. And so I think we're going to be in an era where hopefully we'll be a little bit more disconnected to the technology. And I think that's what those two things are going to bring. We're going to bring that value, we're going to bring that empathy, and we're going to bring that sense of the fact that we're the stuff that, we're the folks that make this stuff, and we can make the future. And I think it's a very happy future. I believe every challenge has its there's silver linings in all things, and we started our conversation with that. And I'm excited about um, you know uh, things getting better in the world, but I'm also exciting about the things we're doing now that we otherwise wouldn't know that will change the world for the better.
Fantastic, and I agree. And I mean, if it wasn't for World War II, you wouldn't have computers, right? Like we had like that bad thing forced us to make those good actions that improve the world. And just the other day, I was talking to someone about how weird and how magical it is that an iPad, a tablet, it doesn't really get hot and it doesn't have a fan. But then a computer, a laptop, you need a fan to run it. And somehow with the chips, they made them run fast and made them be cool enough. And I was reading the other day about contact tracing. Right, we're going through a pandemic right now, and there's all this technology that's being used to, as you say, keep us safe, keep us distant, to take those actions we need to take. But then there's also kind of the being careful about it and designing it in such a way that there's still the privacy. And so yeah, there's a lot to think about, but we have the best minds on it. And it's not, as you said, it's not just creating things for the sake of it. It's not just making the computer that runs twice as fast. It's to accomplish these really cool things. I mean, all these kids. I mean, your kids included, who can't go to school, right? And then they have
Yeah.
distance learning to complete their education. I mean, it's not just about the things, but the things that you can accomplish with that. And yeah, you've given us and these industrial companies a lot to think about. So what's the next step here? If these people say, well, I need to contact James and his team, or I need to find some more resources, what sorts of websites or what sorts of places
Yeah.
should they be going to get more information?
Well, there's a couple of things we could do that deliver value. If there's any business really that cares about being a great marketer, a great seller, and being able to manage and measure their business and understand where they're strong and where they're weak, we put together a marketing readiness assessment, and we feel this is it's like some questions or 40 questions, and you can find it getmarketingready.com. And why that is important is because most of the folks who take this readiness assessment fail. We feel it's our first job, when we're, meeting someone, to hopefully have them to have some self-awareness, and maybe in some things they can handle on their own, but also there's also some folks that can help them figure out that crapola. And so that's a good place to start, for you as value. And it's a quick survey. It's fun to take. And by the way, if you take it, it's use it for good. It's not to really come down on sales or be a leader and say, why are we not here? Or it's someone in marketing saying, why are we not doing that? It's to say, let's have really good conversations. So you'll know it. You'll know what I mean when you take it. And the way you can find our companies in industrialstrengthmarketing.com. And we're launching a podcast by the same name. Um, you know, and that's a great place to go learn about us, our insights. And I'm James, so you can find me on LinkedIn as well. But if I could ever, facilitate an introduction on LinkedIn or something like that, happy to do that. So yeah, just really concerned about folks, and hopefully can learn about, what, if anything, I could do to point them in the right direction. I think we're all trying to do that.
That is getmarketingready.com, so you can go there and not just pick up some tips and trivia and facts and figures, but take that assessment. Take the test, figure out where the pain is, figure out where you're going wrong. That way you can make some corrections, or that way you can maybe beef up some of those and turn some of those weaknesses into strengths, and make things better for yourself and your company. And then industrialstrengthmarketing.com is the place to find the website and that soon to be podcast. And kind of the thing that the comment that I'm getting from our conversation here, James, is that it's really easy to think I'm different, right? It's really easy to think that, well, I'm in some other industry and I don't need to focus on like the online marketing or on the having a cause or on anything or networking, anything like that. And it's easy to fall into that trap of just thinking that you're different, so then you don't have to market yourself like any other company. But if you do that, it's to your own detriment. So it would be in all of our best interests to get out there, be proactive, and really push our brands and make people aware of what we're doing, because the right people are out there, right? Those buyers or those future employees or those people who are excited about a career in whatever our specific industrial sector is. I mean, they're out there, and if we don't put our best foot forward, or if we don't toot our own horn, then no one else will do that for us. So the place to go is industrialstrengthmarketing.com, and then getmarketingready.com is the place to get that assessment. Any final words here as we wrap up, wind down?
Um, I, I think one, just to thank you, Robert. I really, I admire you going out there to really just investigate the industrial sector. And I think one of the things that we have to really do is, whether you're looking at, as a marketer, there's so many great things we can do. And I think one of the things we have to go into is like, have like a mindset like Spotify, like we were willing to enjoy lots of different music. And so for me, what's attractive about what you do is that, you have this sense of how do you really leverage ways to monetize great software products, great educational products, and be a kind of a marketer to innovate, very agile and find revenue streams. That's what I think we all need to do. We need to kind of listen to different tunes and check out industrial marketing, check out different forms of B2B, check out, an influencer and what they're doing, because that is the way. And if, say, hey, you suck, I don't like, heavy metal music, or man, you're an EDM, what's up with that? I'm just like, yes, please. I love music. And I think we really need to have that perspective. So I think, definitely check out industrial marketing. It is really, really amazing to be able to really market something that has such a big impact, and something you actually get to see come to life that otherwise wasn't. So yeah, open your mind.